Artificial intelligence is already a part of our lives, from your YouTube algorithms to your smartphone. But the risks of technology are little known and it's barely regulated. Now the UK is hosting their first ever Global AI Safety Summit. It will look at risks of the fast-growing technology and how to regulate it. The conference will be held at Buckinghamshire. It's where British code breakers worked during World War II and is considered the birthplace of computing. Multi-billionaire Elon Musk, who has been vocal about the risk, is expected to also attend. Our London correspondent, Julia Chapman, joins us now for more on this gathering. Julia, thank you so much for your time. So how exactly does this event fit into the global efforts to regulate AI?
Well, this is the first attempt, really, to get all of the relevant people in the same room to discuss the risks posed by artificial intelligence. There are some heads of state, the European Commission president, and industry leaders from companies that are leading the way when it comes to developing sophisticated artificial intelligence technology, including Google DeepMind, OpenAI, and Meta. So the effort being spearheaded here by the British government is to look at all of the different risks, but specifically those that are focused on the long-term risks, the existential fears that some have about AI technology, the fear that it could become sentient, it could overtake humans, and also the potential for bad actors to use this technology for their malevolent means. So big concerns about the longer-term risks, but there are also criticisms that the more immediate risks are being somewhat sidelined at this summit. Things like racist biases, disinformation spread by deep fakes, as well as the threat to jobs and livelihoods. But the aim of the next 2 days is to come together to look at the risks and how they could be mitigated as part of a kind of global effort to look at what kind of regulation will be needed when it comes to AI in the future.
And so who exactly will be attending? I mean, it's quite important with the global fight, I assume, to also look at the state presidents or representatives who will be in attendance.
Well, certainly fewer heads of state than the UK government would have liked to see attending, but we are seeing Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni coming, the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, the US Vice President Kamala Harris, and some big names from the tech world. The president of Microsoft, Elon Musk, the world's richest man, will be taking part in a live Q&A with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, wrapping up the events on Thursday. So there are certainly some high-profile figures who are involved. China has sent a delegation. We are expecting them to be taking part today, although they haven't been invited tomorrow. There were some concerns about security with regards to China. But of course, China is one of the leading countries when it comes to the development of artificial intelligence, and it was felt in the UK government that they couldn't be excluded from this event.
And what about the criticism that we've heard about more immediate risks that are being overlooked as the focus stays on existential threats down the line?
Yes, absolutely. There seem to be two schools of thought when it comes to AI and the risks associated with it. Looking at the longer-term picture, a national security picture, what AI could potentially cause some sort of threat to humanity if it overtakes human intelligence, and also the capability for terrorists, for example, and hackers to use artificial intelligence to develop bioweapons, for example. So certainly big threats that are very much at the forefront of many minds, but there are also critics who are in the field of AI who say there are already serious risks being posed at this point. You know, AI is still already a part of everyday life in many areas, and there are very big concerns, particularly ahead of a raft of elections next year, that disinformation will become an even bigger problem than it already is. With the assistance of AI, we see deepfake videos being circulated purporting to be a particular political figure, but they have been completely manufactured by artificial intelligence. So some big concerns about that. Also, the way that AI could have racist biases, reflecting biases already endemic in society. And those are the concerns that many experts would like the leaders here to be focusing on, but that hasn't been at the forefront of minds when it comes to this summit. There will be a talk on that today, so it is being discussed, but somewhat overshadowed by the longer-term risks.
So, Julia, clearly the UK going big on this. I guess they want to lead the world in, the discussion around the regulation of AI.
It certainly is, and Rishi Sunak sees the UK as the ideal country to lead the way, somewhere in between the US, China and the European Union, all of which have been looking at this in great detail. Earlier this week, we saw US President Joe Biden sign an executive order which will require AI companies to share data about safety when it comes to developing this technology if there are any threats to national security. The European Union is looking at legislation that is expected to be passed by the end of this year, which would allow the bloc to shut down any companies developing AI that could pose a risk to safety. There's been a G7 code of conduct established as well. And although the UK isn't talking yet about regulating AI, it certainly wants to be involved in the conversation and indeed leading the conversation about mitigating the risks long term that the technology could pose.